Hey guys, doing? My name is Andre Tyson, and I'm so happy to be here. I actually wrote a book, Keeping Your Head Above Water, and I can't hardly wait to share all the different chapter about this book. Before I jump into this book, I just want to briefly tell a little bit about who I am and why I wrote this book. So again, my name is Andre Tyson. I grew up on the island of Jamaica, and I thought that was paradise. I'm talking about beautiful weather all year round. The people on the island was kind, loving. Everyone on my community, I know everyone. You talk about the idea from all the different fruit trees, from mangoes, papaya, you name it. You talk about living in that tropical paradise, and just experience the weather. Like it's always hot. You got that tropical weather, so it's like 80, 90, and so it's always beautiful. And so that was the life that I knew. I grew up in a big family that consists of cousin, uncle, my grandparents and stuff like that. And a part of growing up into that family structure, I didn't know who my dad was. I only heard about him. And so what ended up happening was one day my dad decided to came back in my life because up until the point where I turned 16 years old, I only heard about my dad, but my dad was living in the United States. So he came back to reconnect with myself and my sister. And the day when he came back to, reconnect with us, he was on vacation and he wanted to basically come visit us. We're at, went to high school. And so me and my sister went to the same high school, and my dad came to the high school to visit us. And when we actually met her dad for the first time, we were shocked. We didn't know what to say. And we got in a car and, just trying to reconnect with him. Not seeing him, this is the first time. So it's just like, oh my gosh, what do I say? Here's my dad. And so, he just talked about the idea of, taking us to America to live with him to basically reconnect and who he is and stuff like that. So we both said yes because again, we get the opportunity to experience life in a new country. And so, in terms of America, I didn't really know too much about America based on what we see on in the movies. As far as like what the people are like, the weather. You see snow. We never experience snow because it's always hot all the time. And so when you see people driving in the snow, they're out there building a snowman and doing all this stuff, just like, oh, that's cool. But at the same time, too, we're talking about giving up a way of life that I've known for the past 16 years to experience something totally new, totally different. So again, it's just like that experience and that kind of like that anticipation, knowing that you're leaving one life to experience something else. So again, we're excited for the opportunity. The night before, I can remember like it was yesterday, I couldn't sleep because in back of my mind, I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, what are we gonna basically what's life gonna be like? What are we gonna do? We're gonna eat? Are they gonna have different type of food? Is a house gonna be different? So all these different things that are going through my mind. And so the day before I left Jamaica, again, eventually I fall asleep. And then, you talk about having an alarm clock. Our alarm clock is a rooster. The rooster will be the first person to wake you up in the morning. Cock-a-doodle-doo. And he's out there, he's doing his thing, everybody's awake. And so got ready, got in the car showed up right on time. And so the trip to the airport or that travel to the airport, that was just magical because you're talking about like, there wasn't any need for any AC, right? Air conditioning. You put the windows down and just us really going to the airport and just be able to see the ocean because Jamaica is surrounded by water. So you get to see the ocean. You see all these green trees, the mango, papaya, all these trees as we're leaving Jamaica. And so that was the view. That's what I remember, my experience, and that memory will never, go away because that's all I knew. And then got to the airport, said our goodbyes to her family, and basically got on the plane. And we basically got to JFK. Now, I basically arrived in the United States in December. And in December, at JFK, it was like one of the coldest I ever felt in my entire life because it was like 32-degree outside. So I went outside and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, because the only time I experience being cold is like open up the refrigerator, because that's the only cold that I know up until this point. And then going outside, I was freezing. I'm like, oh my gosh. And my dad and his wife was there to pick me up. And so that was what my experience was like, leaving Jamaica, coming to America. But there's one thing that I wanted to share about who I am up until this point. My grandfather was a big role model in my life, because you're talking about as a father figure. He was a father figure in my life, because in terms of what it was like to take care of family, to provide, to care, to protect, he was the one person that I knew in terms of what a father was like. So even though my dad wasn't there to be that person, be that man in my life, I had my grandfather, and then I also have my uncle. Also was there, was instilling a lot of principle in terms of who I was. So a lot of who I was in terms of the character, the man that I am, it definitely shaped my character from those experiences. So by the time I get to meet my dad, I already knew some of that stuff, and that was a whole different experience. So that was my experience in terms of what it was like growing up in Jamaica. And I'm basically, that's it for this segment. The next segment, I'm going to talk about more in terms of why I wrote this book and why I was able to sell over 400 copy, going to 500 copy now. And it's the number one favorite amongst a lot of my friends. There's a lot of stuff they can relate to it. So come back for my second segment where I talk more about why I wrote this book. That's it for now. Bye, guys.